Did you work as a radio jockey for some time?
Yeah, of course. So when I was in UK,
Ah,
I had a call from IISc because I was setting up one of the most advanced picosecond Raman setup in the world. Nobody had done that at that time. We were the first people to build it.
Hello and welcome. I am Professor Jagdish, Tonannavar, Chief Editor of the Spring Chronicle. The Spring Chronicle is an online magazine platform being supported by an edutech firm, S&S Knowledge Partners, Bengaluru. To mark its first anniversary in March 2026, I am happy to announce that we are going to start a video interview called Journey into Success with special persons who are achievers, and we want them brought to you for your appreciation. Today, I have with me Professor Siva Umapathy, an internationally recognized laser and Raman spectroscopist. He is honorary professor holding positions in the departments of Inorganic and Physical Chemistry, Instrumentation and Applied Physics at the Indian Institute of Science, Bengaluru. He is currently J.C. Bose National Fellow. Professor Umapathy has a number of USA and Indian patents to his credit. What's more, he has founded a deep tech startup called Gyroid Photonics Innovations and Technologies Private Limited, of which he is the chairman, founding director, and CEO. Professor Umapathy's research interests include combining molecular dynamic simulations and different Raman spectroscopy techniques for the investigation of diverse systems like organic molecular species, quantum dots, disease like flu, COVID-19, bacteria, and so on, including instrumentation development, microspectroscopy, and ultrafast dynamics as well. He has pioneered new forms of Raman spectroscopy techniques. Professor Umapathy is a recipient of the most prestigious 2004 Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize, regarded as the Indian equivalent of Nobel Prize. He is a fellow of the Royal Society of Chemistry, an elected fellow of all the three science academies in India, namely Indian National Science Academy, Indian Academy of Sciences, and National Academy Science of India. He has been the director of Indian Institute of Science, Education and Research, popularly known as IISER Bhopal, from 2018 to 23. He has been visiting professor to institutes in Japan, the Netherlands, and the United Kingdom. For more on Professor Siva Umapathy, I refer our viewers to his homepage or Wikipedia. Professor Siva Umapathy, very warm welcome to you, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be with you. Looking forward to this meeting.
Yeah. Professor Umapathy, let me begin by asking you, how would you give a brief account of your early childhood and college days?
So, I studied in a small town, a government high school. It was called the VOC Government High School in a place called Kovilpatti, which is close to the edge of South India, Kanyakumari.
Oh,
Right? And my father was a research scientist in a cotton research station. So I studied there. Then after my 11th standard, those days there was only 11th standard. There was no plus two. We had to do a PUC in a college, pre-university college. So my father moved to Coimbatore, to the Tamil Nadu Agriculture University. So after the 11th standard in Kovilpatti, I moved to Coimbatore for my undergraduate studies. So I remember my school days were the difficult days. I mean, 1971 was the famine. Life was very difficult those days. I remember bicycling 5-6 kilometers to get 2 pots of water because water scarcity was extremely bad at that time. And we used to walk to school. There was no buses or anything like that. Those are the days. And of course, college is in Coimbatore is slightly better, bigger city. And so a reasonably good time. And I finished my master's at PhD College of Technology. and my bachelor's degree in chemistry from Konganad Arts and Science College, which is also in Bangalore, in Coimbatore. And after a PhD Tech, MSc in Applied Sciences, I then went abroad for my PhD, basically.
Okay. So that you went to New Zealand.
Right. So I went to New Zealand for my PhD with a professor called Jim McCullen. Jim McCullen was the first person in the world to demonstrate surface-enhanced Raman spectroscopy. He worked with Martin Fleischmann in Southampton, and then he moved to New Zealand. So I worked with him for my PhD.
Okay. If I remember, did you work as a radio jockey for some time?
Yeah, of course. I was in New Zealand, of course. I don't. There was only 2 or 3 Indians in that city when I was there. So for me, there is nothing to do. So there was an international students' help group at the university, and so the university used to call me to help other Asians. Singapore, Malaysia. All these students used to come from there, and they used to ask me to help. So I had a friend who was very active in the students' activities at the university. So university had a radio station. And so he used to take me there. And one day I told him, why are you guys not playing any music for international students? Because you are all very keen. Then he said, we don't know anything about international. If you want to run, we'll give you time. So I got trained on how to use the radio station. It is a table with CD players and music players. And we have to learn how to load the CDs, when to start. There's always an engineer to help. But so I used to run an international music program every Sunday, 5 to 6. So there I used to play music from all over the world, including India, South America, Chinese, Japanese. So I asked people to give popular songs from their countries, and I used to play that.
Oh.
So that's how I got into working for the radio station.
At what stage did you get the motivation to pursue a career in science?
No, to be very honest, I don't think we had any option, really. I mean, so we just, after, like everybody else, after 11th standard, PUC, we tried to get into engineering or medicine. In our days, I think the total number of seats available was only the government colleges of engineering and medicine, which are extremely small, and I didn't have the rank to get admission. So then we had to look at what else is available nearby. We couldn't afford to go any far away except the same town as a day scholar. So I just took what was available, which was chemistry. So I just joined chemistry. I just, had to do well, that's all, because we know we don't have any other choice. It's not that, my father being a professor, only thing we knew is to study, nothing else. So I just studied, then I went for MSc, studied. Then I went abroad. During my PhD, I remember it was my second year of my PhD. There was a professor from England had visited our lab in New Zealand. And I was working on a molecule, a quinone molecule, for my PhD project. It so happens that that professor's students was also working on the same molecule, but using a different technique. So he was interested, so we got into a conversation. And he was there for 3 weeks, so he got involved in my research. So at the end of his period of 3 weeks, he took me out for dinner, and then he said, look, if you're interested in a postdoc, you're welcome to England, and please let me know. I said, yeah, of course. I mean, I'll be happy to come. So about a month later, I got a letter from him offering a position, saying that whenever you finish your thesis, you let me know, and I will arrange for you to come to England to work with him. And that's where it started. So I did not apply for any jobs at that time.
Who was that professor?
That was Ron Hester.
That's what I wanted to know from you, because you had told me.
So, So Ron Hester is a very famous professor who used to work with Andy Albrecht Andy Albrecht was the father of resonance Raman spectroscopy, whom also I used to know. I came to know of him very late, and then I met him. I also spent time with Andy Albrecht. So Ron worked in Cornell for his postdoc with Albrecht, and then he moved to England and then started his own lab. So I came to know of that much later, of course. When he came, I just knew him as a professor from England.
Yeah.
But only after I went to England, I came to know of him.
We have a series of monographs on
Correct.
advances in molecular spectroscopy, edited by him.
Yeah, no, I have a chapter in that as well.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, because I think one of the chapter on time resolved spectroscopy. I think we have a chapter.
Okay. So after New Zealand, you went to the United Kingdom and then worked at Rutherford Appleton Lab, and also University of Nottingham, right?
Correct. York, University of York, yeah. So although the project was handed over to Ron Hester, it was Ron Hester's project to build a time-resolved Raman spectrometer at Rutherford Labs. So basically, we were working at Rutherford Labs. And the other co-investigator was from the Royal Institution, David Phillips. So basically, two supervisors for the postdoc. Royal Institution is where Humphrey Davy, Michael Faraday, all these people used to be there.
Yes.
Actually, by the way, one of the reasons I know Saudati is because Saudati worked with George Porter,
right,
who was also was a professor at the Royal Institution. So that's one of the reasons Saudati and I clicked on quite quickly. Because when he told me that he's from Royal Institution, I said, yeah, I have also been to Royal Institution.
Okay.
And he said, what a coincidence. Because I also know George Porter well, because he was there at the time when I was there.
Yes.
But I didn't work with George, but I worked with David Phillips, who was George Porter's student. So that's how we know each other also.
Yes. So from there, you came back to India and joined Indian Science in the year 1990.
when I was in UK, I had a call from IISc. Saying that we are interested in looking for somebody in your area, laser spectroscopy, and they said, would you be interested in coming back? And my understanding, because I've never done research in India, and I know that Indian Institute of Science is the best institute, but the idea was that I wasn't sure there is enough money to do research in India for laser research, because lasers are expensive. Because I was setting up one of the most advanced picosecond Raman setup in the world. Nobody had done that at that time. We were the first people to build it. And so when they asked me, would you like to come? I said, of course I'd like to come. But I'm not sure how whether I get funding or not. And they said, look, you should trust us and come, send your biodata. So I sent my biodata. I had an appointment letter, but I still wasn't quite sure. And my father was not very clear it's the right thing to do, because he was saying, look, lasers are expensive. I don't know whether you can get the funding here or not. So I was saying this to Ron. And then Ron and I used to play squash on Saturdays. He's a very avid sportsman, and I also like sports. So one day after a squash game, we were sitting and having lunch, and in a pub. The UK pubs are very common, which is you do on Saturday or Sunday. So we're sitting and having a drink, and I was telling him that, I don't know what to do. Then he said, give me some time, let me find out what we can do. Then he came back later and told me, look, what we can do is we can give you 1 year leave. And within 1 year, if you can come back, we'll give you the same position. And otherwise, you have to let us know as soon as possible whether you're going to settle in India or not. So I came back. And I have to say, I was quite tough with as soon as I arrived. CNR was asking lots of questions, saying, "What are you going to do?" and all that. And I demanded too many things. And you keep saying that you are not in England, you are back in India. So, talk about reality. I said, I am talking about reality. Because I had this idea that if nothing works out, I can go back in 6 months. And but I have to say, Sienna Rao kept his word, made sure that I got a lot of money at that time. I got close to about 40 lakhs as a startup grant, actually. This is 1991 February, January. I joined in 90 December. So this was 91 January, February. We got about 40 lakhs. Then I submitted a proposal to DST for about 2 crores. And I got about 1.2 crores at that time. So we set up the first time resolved lab in the country. And so rest of it, history now. Lots of things happened, many things, good things happened. So,
in fact, I was to ask you this question, you have answered it anyway.
Right.
The ambience like at IISc when you returned from UK, you answered it already.
Yeah. No, IISc, that's a good thing. Those days. I remember in the evenings when I come down from my office, CNR will come out and, he'll immediately say, what happened? Have you published a paper? What have you set up? What happened to the order? And, he was a director, right? And he was still, keen on everybody doing well. And I remember I placed an order for a detector, a sensitive detector. It's a intensifier-based detector, diode array. And what happened was the Indian rupee deteriorated with respect to dollar. We are importing. So it was 18 rupees and then it went to 22 rupees or something. So the order got stuck because the Indian rupee that was reserved, now there's not enough money in the account. So the registrar refused to release the order, saying that, we have to wait for 2-3 months, we wait and see. So I complained to CNR Rao saying, look, how do you expect me to do research? Now the order is pending already a month. He got very mad and immediately called the registrar and said, you can't hold orders like this. Release it because we agreed to give him an instrument, you should give it to him. So next day the order was released. So that kind of proactive monitoring of performance of young faculty and helping them quickly to make sure that, the work gets done. And I remember him telling me in my second meeting, I think, he said, Umapathy, you remember something. As long as you're doing well, you can come and see me anytime. I will be happy to meet you, spend time with you. If you're not doing well, don't even come to see me. I don't want to see you, It's very upfront, very clear. And I think that's a clear roadmap, clear leadership. And so that kind of thing is what is needed today as well.
So you mentioned roadmap. I have a question on that.
Right.
To the best of my awareness, your research interests have kept pace with the frontiers in laser spectroscopy as well as Raman spectroscopy.
Right.
It would be of interest to know, how did you lay out a roadmap for the successful investigations one after another? Any strategies you adopted?
Well, no, not strategy in the sense that, the curiosity of how much fundamental questions you can ask, basically. How much you can penetrate into science, how can you just understand things in much more higher resolution, much deeper, right? So we were actually at all times where at the same frontiers of science, in the sense, technologically we were chasing questions, basically. We started with nanosecond, there was no picosecond system. When the picosecond system came, we started working on picosecond timescales. Picosecond timescales is 100 times slower than a bond moving. So we were not seeing anything on structures. We were not able to see how much a bond is vibrating. When the femtosecond came, it was a boom. We can start seeing atoms moving in real time in the experiment. So it just, and the other most important thing also is in a way, my second student, I think, first or second student, when she came and joined, at that time, the dynamics question was coming up all over the world, and this girl said, "Sir, I want to really do something exciting." Then I told her, "Listen, I'm interested in getting into this field. I also don't know because I'm new to this field. If you are interested, we can explore this for the first 2 years. If you are successful, we can move on in the direction. Otherwise, we'll come back to our traditional experiments. She said, yes, sir, we'll do that together. So, we started a new area on wave packet dynamics, where molecular dynamic simulations and plus also experiments. And it became successful. I mean, it put put me on the world map because we started a system called isobenzene, and everybody started noticing what we are doing. And so suddenly I started getting invitations around the world. So that kind of ability to take challenges with the quality of students we had, that way, I say IISc gives you that opportunity to take difficult experiments and theory, computation, because the students are of high quality. You can push them to the wall and they'll live up to it. And that's the best.
Professor, you said you could use femtosecond lasers also.
Right.
So they're all very resource-intensive equipment and experiments.
Right.
So, did it require any planning?
Of course, yeah. So, for example, I think we submitted a I think the proposal was submitted close to 2001, 2002. By the time the money arrived in the institute, it was 2005. And then, of course, nobody in India knew about femtosecond. Nobody actually, people the problem is that when you're doing new experiments that nobody has done before, it involves manipulating laser pulses, designing detectors, designing optical lines. These are all, you can't buy them from the shop. You can only buy the base unit. Now, of course, none of the students any of our students are trained on experiments. In the master's degree, none of them do laser experiments. Right? So they all come fresh. So I used to spend every Saturday asking students to make presentation on what is a laser, how it works, how it is designed, what is a detector. And then I tell them, put an optical diagram, explain to me what is a lens, different. So it was education and training. So 2005, we started building the lab. By 2008, we got our first paper on the femtosecond. And that was a time where some people, I remember one of the government secretaries told me, I'm hearing that your output from your lab is not as expected. I said, don't worry, you wait for some time, it will happen. Because we are building a new direction. Because up to 2004, 2005, we were doing only nanosecond. And so now to build a laboratory of this complexity, I mean, we were third in the world to demonstrate that you can do femtosecond Raman. So, it's all well documented. From India, that I have done the demonstration femtosecond Raman spectroscopy, is the third person in the world to demonstrate that, which took time, 3 years, but of course we got it done. After that, of course, we are really well known in the world for ultrafast Raman spectroscopy. But it does take planning and training. We have to spend a lot of time with students to train them patiently, because the students are inherently very bright. They just need guidance, what direction to go, what to read, how to make presentation, what are the challenges. Then you can get everything done.
Good problems in science are notorious for taking more time, always.
Correct.
Could you briefly tell us about the salient features of some of the major outcomes from your work?
So, number of things, one of the things I always talk about is people don't understand why some reactions succeed, some chemical reactions don't succeed.
Yeah.
I mean, from a physics point of view, if you look at a conducting polymer, right? Why some polymers are conducting, some polymers are not? How do you make a plastic to conduct? So what properties of chemical and physical properties you need to do that process? Now, the speed of electron, right? If you see, it flows through the chemical structure. You have a chemical bond, the electron goes from bond to bond. Now, if you want to understand why some is successful, some is not successful, we should be able to monitor the electron moving in real time. You can't do an equilibrium study, then you don't understand. You have to see while the conductivity is happening. So we have done a few experiments to show, for example, how the lattice distortion assists acceleration of electron. Now, if the lattice is too strict in terms of structural combination, then the lethargy of lattice distortion will slow down the electron. So the resistance increases. So that, for example, next person who designs the next conductivity will be able to take this into account to do a better efficiency of it. Similarly, for example, if you're taking a pharmaceutical drug, you're trying to synthesize a molecule, making a molecule. It works in some solvents, but it doesn't work in some other solvents. So we have looked at we have published a few papers on showing what is the role of solvent at the microscopic level, interaction between a solute and a solvent at the femtosecond time scales. How do they interact? How do the electrons move across the solvent to solute? Therefore, you can explain the source of the physical property of reaction dynamics, how fast it goes or how slow it goes. So that's on the time resolved side. And we have done quite a bit of work on, for example, trying to do biomedical research, where we try to understand the chemical composition of any biological system, whether it is a cell or a bacteria or a blood sample or serum or plasma, and try to relate those chemical composition to human health. Whether cholesterol, low density lipids, high density lipids, how are they related to in your body function? Whether it is infection, for example, if you have a flu infection, now what are the changes that induces in the body? So we have got some patents and some work on that area as well. Because after 2005, I started spending 20 to 30% initially on the applied side instead of doing. Up to 2005, we were doing extremely basic research. After 2005, we started diversifying a little bit, some 20, 30% on applications, 60, 70%. As the years passed by, I started shifting more and more into application. After 2015, almost 70, 80% of my work is more on the applied side, more on development of applications rather than basic research.
Professor Umapathy, you have been the director of IISER Bhopal. So how was the overall experience being an academic leader as well as scientific administrator?
Yeah, so one thing was very clear to me. I mean, the young faculty and young students need vision and support, which are futuristic, which are logistic, which are realistic, which is respected by them. They have to, the problem is most of the time there is very little communication between the top and the rest of the system. I used to go spend time with students in the evenings in the coffee place. And I used to spend time with the faculty. I used to have, every year, at least I have one meeting with each department. Just to be in touch with every faculty. And if I see some faculty on the road, I used to walk with them, talk to them. The idea is that, unfortunately, Indian condition, if you're a head of an organization, you can get isolated very quickly because there's so much to do and there is so many layers before somebody can approach. And if you don't cut that layer across and move down, you can live in an idle tower without realizing the problems at the bottom, actually, particularly the students, So that's something I learned. So I used to try to do as much as I can. Whenever I get free time, even if I have a couple of, an hour or so in the middle, I deliberately go to the coffee place and sit down and have a cup of coffee. And somebody comes and say, hello, come sit down. And they join you. After some time, when they see you, they'll come to you and sit with you, which is good. And listening to them is good because when I studied, the way that system was is very different from what it is today. I mean, the expectations of students, they say, sir, the bandwidth of the internet is too slow. The issue, we didn't even have an internet when we were students. And for example, some students says, I want 5 internet connections, 7 internet connections. I have 2 iPads, two mobile phones. I mean, I don't know, and some people have only one phone or one, they don't even have a laptop, some of them. So you have a big difference in students. And similarly, faculty requiring funding, for example. Luckily, IISER, we managed to get reasonably good level of funding. And so it is a making judgment on who deserves more funding and when. Because some people who gets funding for themselves, suddenly for a year, they may not have funding. So we kind of back them up saying, okay, now that you don't have funding, I'll support your lab. Some people must have applied for funding, might not have received, so they need help. So like that, you help people as well. So this requires a lot of interactions and monitoring performances of faculty to be able to do. So it's a good thing to do. I think it's good to do for 1 term, 5 years. I think that's more than enough. It's not that
Yes, right.
you can do,
Yeah. What about administration per se?
That's okay. I mean, all administration is all sorts of things, positives and negatives. But that's what your experience help in doing the administration.
Yes.
Um, as long as you don't lose control of yourself. The problem is that sometimes it may feel that people are being unreasonable, and we have to accept the fact that that's all they understand. People come from different backgrounds, different cultures. The expectations are very different. Somebody who has spent the 10, 15 years abroad will come back and be much casual. To somebody who has only spent time in India will be much more obedient. But that doesn't mean both of them don't want to be independent or both of them don't have very diverse views. But we need to take their views into consideration when we take decisions. And so, just because somebody coming from abroad may have extremely progressive views, somebody who is only been trained in small places will have very conservative. But both are no good for existing system. So we'll have to bring them together at some point. So it's quite a challenging but interesting experience. Good to have.
Yeah, I have heard many people saying that bureaucracy is a problem, huge problem, but nobody knows how to fix it.
No, see, the bureaucracy is also partly problem because two reasons. One is that we keep forgetting that we are actually using taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
Now, when you're spending taxpayers' money, then the checks and balances have to be satisfied. And that you have to accept and work on it. See, since I have received a lot of funding from Government of India, I'm aware of these challenges while I was a professor. So I understand those challenges. But the problem is that how well do you implement those rules and regulations? Now, Government of India has reasonably good discretionary powers to the people in power. Now, the problem is that when you have discretionary power that you're using, you must ready to face the consequences when you use discretionary power. And if you don't want to face the consequences, then you don't want to open the Pandora's box. Right? People always say, I don't want to open the Pandora's box. I said, why not? Open the box, right? You have the courage to say, look, I will open when I want it. I mean, I'm not going to open because if I open today, I have to open tomorrow. I don't have to open tomorrow. If you don't deserve it, you're not going to get it. So that is not easy to do. But I had mentally very clear position because your role is to facilitate performance and achievement. And if somebody is not doing well, if I have to say, I'll say, no, sorry, I can't do this. I mean, that is sometimes difficult for everyone because most people try to keep everyone happy. And that's the easier way to maintain mediocrity and low performance. That happens sometimes.
Yeah, that's right. There has been a general tendency signaling that the young people are not attracted to basic sciences. If so, what's your take on this?
No, I think, in any society, percentage of people who are interested in basic sciences it will be the same. I mean, it's just that For example, recently after this AI has come, learnings have become, irrelevant in some sense. People are now,
I have a question on
or,
that.
yeah. I mean, if I can talk about particle physics. I need about 15 minutes to go on Chat GPT and learn something about particle physics and give a lecture to you for 15 minutes. So that's the status today, right? But in 30 years ago, that was not the case. You can't talk about particle physics unless you're a particle physicist. So you can't say now people have become useless because the systems have changed, the learning process have changed. So in terms of intellectual capacity, I don't think it is changing. It is our expectations are changing, and the methodology by which people's behavior and sharing knowledge is changing. And so I think it's going to continue to evolve. I don't think whether interest in basic science is changing. The other problem is that in a country like India, if you look at the percentage of job opportunities, um, in sciences is probably much less compared to engineering.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Now, when that is the case, if you are not an outstanding scientist, your job opportunities are very limited. At least engineering, even if you are above average, you'll get a job. So this is other thing making it much more complex for a common person on the street saying, at least you do engineering, you'll get something. That is a problem. It's
So
a perception of this.
yeah, I'm sorry. You are suggesting the level of competence must be high.
Yeah, because the number of opportunities are so limited in science. You're competing with the best of the best, so that unless you're doing really well, it's difficult.
How do you think these science academies and IISERs and other institutions can help this problem?
I think that we have to get more practical. I mean, I think if the experiments have to be redesigned, all the practical laboratories have to be redesigned. Now, creativity and innovation has to come into undergraduate classes. Encourage them to come up with new ideas and new methods of doing things. I think the way the education is going to change. I think that is going to happen, but it won't be that easy.
Okay, then we recently heard your excellent talk on spectroscopy and AI at Karnataka University.
Right.
With the advent of AI technology, of course, which you already mentioned, technology, AI revolution, what's your recommendation for its inclusion in curriculum and then frontier research?
So if you look at curriculum today, right, as long as, when the student knows the topic, you don't need a teacher. It's all available. Right? You can take Gemini and ask the question, what is gravity?
Wonderful things are available.
Yeah. So, you say, look, I'm a first year physics student. Can you please show me by a video demonstration what is gravity, and explain the equation and tell me how to calculate. It'll teach you like it teaches a school student, right? And that is the level to which AI has gone.
Yeah.
So, which means any student who is self-motivated, as long as they have an internet access, are equivalent to as good as in Harvard and Stanford, right? That's the standard. That's what they say. Equalizing the world, democratizing the education of the world.
Yeah.
The so-called rich countries learning better than poor countries will disappear sooner or later. So what's going to happen in academics? If you look at universities, the teachers will become facilitators of learning, not teachers of learning. They don't have to teach them anymore, but they have to convert the knowledge into practical aspects, the relationship between topics. Do you have a relationship between quantum mechanics and spectroscopy? Although they are taught independently, how well they are related and why they are related. Now that some teachers can, bring in knowledge into an innovation side, how to combine and create. Those kind of changes will come. And so I think it's going to revolutionize the way our education system functions. And the other thing that's going to happen is that the smart kids who understand these changes are going to learn much quicker than people who don't understand. Because everything is available on your fingertips. You can learn quick, become an expert quick, and participate quicker. I think it's likely to happen soon.
Professor Umapathy, we all have used the molecular modeling techniques, right, for a number of years now. How AI and machine learning, in your opinion, would influence the computational landscape?
Shut it down. I can tell you, the most complicated molecular modeling, molecular dynamic simulations were protein folding, right?
Protein fold, yeah.
Now AlphaFold can do a protein folding in 4 hours. Now that's all. So as long as you can put your program in the AI domain, and then you tell them what you need, it'll get it done quickly. You don't need to be an expert in the field anymore. That's what is happening. So that is why innovation is going to be faster. For example, drug discovery used to take 5 to 8 years. Now they think it's going to happen in a few months. You'll get a new drug as soon as a issue is found out. You get a new drug quickly. So similarly, for example, material is going to come up much faster than people used to think. You can design materials by computer using AI much faster than they used to do. So the rate at which the world is going to change in the next 10 years is going to be astonishing, good and bad. I mean, the good of all of these, the bad thing is misuse of AI.
Yes.
And that's equally is going to have. But that is something that we have to be ready for.
Professor Umapathy, let's talk about your startup. You have been the founding director and CEO of this Gyroid Photonics. How did it start? I mean, what was the motivation for you to do this?
Yeah, so we started working on, for example, data analysis in biology since 2008. We use mostly neural networks, artificial neural networks, machine learning, basically, cluster analysis, hierarchical cluster. Then 2012, 2014, I think they had a couple of students came, and then I started looking at how do we incorporate AI, whether we can, because cluster analysis is only good up to a certain point. When you have 10, 12 bacteria, if you want to identify each one, then you get into a bunch of errors which are much larger. So I got worried because if this technology has to come to commercialization, the accuracy has to get better. So we started using these AI models, which was existing at the time. And we started with these image processing models because we are also using a spectrum. A spectrum is basically frequency, amplitude. And so in a image, again, it's the same thing. It's just kind of a RGB frequency combinations. So I said, why don't we use a similar model? So we started using that. And we started getting good results. Then we started applying it to a lot of commercial related applications and diagnostics as well. Then everybody was starting a startup, and my colleagues were saying, you're sitting on something which is good. So I made an instrument for DRDO, but for bacterial detection, which they were very keen on, which we built, and it worked very well. And so having worked on that, then we had, in the meantime, we had already filed about 10, 12 patents. And I got 4, 5 of them granted in the US and India. Other 4 are pending in the US. So then decided, why not, try a startup. And so we started the startup. I mean, the first year was very difficult, very little funding, making a lot of presentations, looking for funds. Finally, 2 investors came forward, agreed to fund our project and startup. So we are now trying to get into commercialization of the technology.
In that case, what's your advice to young scientists who wish to become, let's say, entrepreneurs, startups?
I always say that, you have to understand how to make money with your science, whatever your idea you may have. And what is the timeline of making money? What is the investment? What is the project that provides profit you will make? If you don't understand that, I think you should not get in, because the first question an investor will ask, what is the use commercially? How much will someone pay for it? And therefore, what is the likely scenario that you will make money?
So commercial stakes are high.
Absurd. Otherwise, why would I invest money in you? You see, if somebody gives you 10 rupees, they expect 50 rupees back.
Yes.
Right? If some people are very willing to wait for a year, some people are willing to wait 5 years. But as long as the return is high, they will. And if the probability of return is high, not return is high, if the probability of return is high, they will invest money in you. Because they are all also taking a risk, hoping that you will do well. That judgment that the investors make. Luckily, both investors that I have, one is Idea Spring, one Mr. Naganan, another one is Navam Capital, which is one Mr. Rajiv Mantri. Mr. Mantri is again somebody who likes deep tech, who love to see Indian technology becoming a product. Same with Naganan, saying it is patented technology which is likely to be commercialized. They're just betting on you and your ideas and your calculations of costing and market value, in terms of potential sales, right? And so if you want to start a startup, you must have a clear mindset saying, when are you going to likely have a product? What are your competitors? What price you can fix it? And therefore, when can you make money? When can you break even? And that, if you have, then the rest of it can be done. There's always people to do the registration of startup. And, they're all much easier to do. You don't need more than 1 lakh to start a company. But to get investment, you need much more. That is difficult.
So like your startup, how many, let's say roughly, what is the landscape? How many people are trying like this and be successful?
Oh, no. So I understand, I'm hearing that 100,000 startups are in India. So large number of startups. In the US also, it's just, very large number. You hope that, I don't know, many people become successful, right? So, I mean, for example, I don't know whether I'm correct or not. You can check it out. In the last count, I think Zomato, they're still not breaking even. Right? The investment is larger than the business value.
Oh.
Right? So, a large number of companies are still negative, but the valuation is very high. So, this whole cycle is very complex cycle. So I don't understand the mathematics behind that, because the business people understand them better. They invest more and more money, hoping to push it to the next level. So, this whole startup game business is too complicated.
Before we wrap up, Umapathy, when you look at your whole journey, how would you summarize it?
I would say I've been lucky, I guess, and I would think that I always tell my students as well that whatever is given to you, whether it is a topic of work or something to learn, if you put your heart and mind to it without distraction and sincerely, you don't have to worry. Somebody else will take care of you. Because the whole world is looking for a talent all the time. It's just not the money. It's just not the people. It is the knowledge and talent. And if somebody works hard without worrying about, do I get my salary increase? Do I get my promotion? Do I go to bigger places next? Do I buy a car? Your priorities are not disturbed. It's only to do very well. The car will come to you, jobs will come to you, promotions will come to you. That is my experience. So I would say that I've been lucky, and whatever I try to do, I've been lucky to get good results. The people I work with have been very nice to me, and my students have been great. And all my friends like you, of course, have always been well-wishers and good friends. And so everything works out well. That makes a difference.
Yeah. So on this note, let us end this interview.
Thank you.
On behalf of my editorial team and on my own behalf, I profusely thank Professor Umapathy for
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.